So welcome, Ysanne. We're here to talk about the upcoming retreat that's very exciting in June this year, 11th through the 14th of June in the Algarve.
Lovely, and it's lovely to be talking to you here, and I'm so looking forward to this retreat. Portugal holds a very special place in my heart, and I just enjoy the running or co-running or participating in retreats, the cooperation, and I suppose the heart level, the heart energy, the beauty of sharing.
Yeah, everybody on the retreats that I've run over the years, everybody just ends up meeting friends. Some of them, stay together for life almost, because they've, as you say, when you're in a retreat space, it's like a heart-centered, no judgment, there's no problems, everybody's supportive of one another, and people tend to reveal stuff that's going on with them that maybe they've never told anybody in their life. And it's really quite humbling sometimes what happens. So your involvement is going to be obviously quite a big part, and we're looking at astrology. Now we're having this conversation, for those who are listening, on the day of the eclipse, the big eclipse on 8th of April. So can you tell us a bit in astrology terms what's actually going on here, Ysanne? Is there anything we should be looking out for? Are we going to feel anything?
Right, well, rather than astrology speak, I'm going to put it into everyday words, because astrology, the language of the stars, that's what astrologos means, is obviously its own language and symbolic. So yes, we have a solar eclipse at British summer time, 7:20. Is it 7:20 or 7:21? Or 1921. And so different time zones will experience it at different time of their day. Now, a solar eclipse can only occur on a new moon, which occurs once a month. Okay, and a lunar eclipse, which we had 2 weeks ago, can only occur at a full moon, when the sun and moon are in opposite signs of the zodiac. So 2 weeks ago, I think it was the 25th of March, we had the sun in Aries and the moon in Libra, opposite signs, all about balance. 2 weeks on, at the new moon this evening, BST, we have the sun and moon at the same degree of a sign, in this case, Aries, the first sign of the zodiac in the natural year. And until about 300 years ago, the vernal equinox, the beginning of Aries, was seen as the new year rather than January. And sometimes we really feel that, of course. And Aries is this starting point, it's the seed. So think about that for a moment, the seed which is sown, and it's quite invisible once you've got that tiny seed and it's in the ground, or maybe that little seed in your heart, and you have to nurture it. You have to nurture it to see it grow, to grow roots, which is the next door sign Taurus, and then to blossom, which is a lovely analogy, I think. So new moons every month are a time of seeding, of setting intent. So that's something we can all look up when the new moon is. It's not difficult to find. You don't need a book called an ephemeris. The newspapers say it and so forth. You can Google it. And they are important times of the beginnings, not to rush your fences. It's the idea, it's the concept, the conception. And it takes a little time. In terms of the month and the following, about a week later, you can start to see whatever your intent is, something you've started or wanted, start to manifest in some form. But this is different. This is when the moon comes between the sun and the earth, it's lined up. You can visualize that. And so the light of the sun, which is always shining somewhere on earth, is temporarily blocked, if you like. And the sun is where our consciousness, our outer consciousness is. It's where we're centered. We've all got a solar plexus, yes, which often can feel a bit bruised, or we feel very sensitive there. In fact, in Homer's time, the Greek philosopher Homer, his time, and he talked about the solar plexus being the real brain, because people thought much more from that gut level rather than the brain. It's an interesting thought. So I often ask people, do you feel your consciousness is in your head, or where is it? So obviously we're quite cerebral, nothing wrong with that. We're thinkers, left hemisphere brain strong. We're going to say our head, but everyone has experiences where the gut feeling, we can ignore it, but it comes through quite strongly. But the sun is very much about our consciousness shining our light, which quite honestly, apart from the egomaniacs in the world and so on, or even people in our lives who are rather over the top, we don't shine our light enough. I think it was Nelson Mandela in his inauguration speech way back. It's a lovely speech you can get up and Google and find, where he says, "It's not our darkness that frightens us, it's our light."
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, it's not the failures, it's the success that's scary. Yeah.
Yeah, that too. Yes, absolutely. So I'll bring some copies of it along on the retreat, which is quite nice. We can meditate on it. So the moon is very much about the inner world. It's about our past as well. It reflects the light of the sun, but it's not the sun. Yeah. So the moon temporarily for 4.5 minutes, I think it's 4.5 minutes, crossing that path of the sun, and we're living on Earth. In some areas of the world, of course, tonight, they're going to see the sun totally eclipsed. Now, the word eclipse means to leave, which is quite interesting. Yeah. So, and of course, our ancestors were quite frightened of that. They used to do all sorts of sacrifices and so on to bring the sun back. And it's quite interesting that when Jesus died on the cross, they talked about the sky darkening for a few minutes or an hour or something. So there probably was an eclipse at that time, which they didn't understand fully, yes? And there's other analogies. And you see in the Bible, in Shakespeare, a lot of references to eclipses. They see them as not very good omens. But I personally see it like a light bulb, a light switch being turned off for 4.5 minutes, even if where we are in Britain, Europe, and so on, it's not going to be a total eclipse. But it's like a light bulb goes off, and then a few minutes later, you switch it back on. The cosmic switch comes back on. And it's almost like when a light goes on anyway, we see the room or place as it was. Maybe a couple of cars have gone by if we're outside, but that's about it. But then we wouldn't be outside with a light bulb. So there is that feeling of when we open our eyes again, is everything going to be as it was? And we take that for granted. So there's something about around about 7:20 tonight, BST, which is summertime, where we have the opportunity to go within the stillness and to get more clarity. And the main thing is to be able to let go of old stories. Well, I'm a storyteller. A lot of us are actually. We just don't know it, or we feel rusty. Storytellers. And we have stories. And it's quite important to write new endings, to change the narrative. We can do that. We can do that. It's not all cast in stone. And to create new stories that we want. So I recommend at 7:20 this evening that we look at what we want to let go of, to sit quietly, maybe not even eat or drink at that time, just be empty. And then round about, what would it be, 7:25, 7:26, to think about the intent you want to put out there. You can make it very personal. There's nothing wrong with that. Nice that personal intent is going to help people as well, if it's improving yourself, or just something for the world. But particularly some seeding of something. And Aries is very much the energy of the hero. The hero. It's the leader. I mean, we have wise leaders. We can also have very aggressive, selfish ones, reactive ones. And we've all got those capabilities within us. And we certainly see it on the world stage. So I think we will see in the next few days quite a lot of changes, even earth changes. Earthquakes and things are very sad. Volcanoes are sad. They do sometimes pave the way for new land. The earth takes a lot of pressure, and inner earthquakes occur where it shakes up the old. And I do prefer the word breakthrough to break down. I'm sure you do. So yes, it's a very significant time. And now we're in the dark moon, which we have 3 days before the new moon. So we've had that for nearly 2.5 days or more, when it is a time of retreat. To retreat ourselves, I don't know. And to have a little bit of chaos. We don't allow that enough. To not allow that chaos to come in, and what pathways to leave behind. Now, at the same time, this sun and moon, and it's at 19 degrees of Aries, for those of you who may understand that, there's 30 degrees in a sign. So Aries is somewhere in our own horoscopes, dependent on our time of birth, some area of the chart which is ready for fresh air. It's like a spring clean, and we are in spring, isn't it? And it's lined up at the same degree as the wounded teacher and healer Chiron, Chiron, which has a 50-year cycle. And if any of you are around about that age of 50, you'll understand about the healing of wounds, maybe looking at ways of healing and teaching others in personal life or professionally or voluntarily. And Chiron is our wounded teacher and healer, so wounds can come up. How do we heal them? Firstly, is to acknowledge them.
Yeah.
Sometimes just be about, who am I? Am I enough? What's my identity? So I'll stop talking at this point, but I think that's a good point too.
This fits. I've got a fly. I keep on flicking me myself because there's a fly and I can't stop, you know, feeling itchy, and this fly is what do you call it? They don't bite, do they? Tickling. The fly's tickling me. I couldn't think of the word tickling. Anyway, so I digress. Yeah, this all fits in nicely with what we're doing on the retreat, because the astrology, the way you explain it in wonderfully easy lay terms with the stories, that links into the personal development stuff that I'll be doing, talking about our behaviour profiles and how our behaviour affects our health and our well-being. And of course, there'll be health and well-being conversations as well. So the whole lot just knits really nicely together.
Beautiful.
Will you be talking about birth charts? I hear a lot of people talking about birth charts. And where do you stand on birth charts, Ysanne?
Well, the majority of my work, apart from giving talks, running workshops, and writing, is but doing interpretations of people's birth charts. I've been doing this, Elaine, I think 45 years now. Started really young, 1979, and I learned all the calculations at the time by hand, all the maths, because there was no computers for that. That was good for me too, my apprenticeship. And I asked for people their full date of birth, including the year, the time and the clock if they know it when they were born, and the town, country of birth. It's like clicking something into a sat nav or GPS and you're getting the coordinates. And it is a map, and it shows your ancestral line, the soul line, maybe even reincarnation if people are open to that. We don't have to be. And the timings, the cycles, everything is timing and cycles from the moment we're born. A clock, if you like, is ticking within us, an external cosmic clock. And my job is really to get people on that map. Most of it people understand and relate to, because if you've worked on yourself at all, you know yourself mainly. But it's very easy to get conditioned by the outside world, fears, doubts. We know all this, we're human. And we get off the map a little. So navigating it and choices, we've got free will, are always there, and crossroads, we're taught to stop, look and listen, whether we're driving or walking. And finally, the word crossroad also means crisis and opportunity. So it's an interesting one to address. So that's what I do with a 90-minute reading for people. And we look at the cycles coming up, the themes, the talents, and those they don't know, and how one fits in with one's relationships, particularly to self. And with this, going back to the eclipse in Aries, the opposite one is Libra, which is the other out there. How do we work as a team? What's our worldview? How do we relate with others? Because every leader, if it's a good leader, I'm sure you'll agree, needs to know how to delegate as well, and be interested, like a CEO should, the people on the shop floors, they used to call it as well. And I think it's all about, yes, we can have our center, we can have our talent and leadership, but to incorporate the others as well. So that's an area I look at in birth charts. I look at children's charts linked with parents, partners. Astrocartography, big word, which is like, cartography is a study of maps. So you're putting your birth chart onto the world map, and you can see which areas are easier. Doesn't mean to say we should avoid the difficult ones, because that's where we grow and learn. And sometimes we have no choice. Let's say our job takes us there or whatever. But it shows what areas show up in your own chart where you feel more at home, where it's good to have a home base. Public profile, where you can communicate well, where perhaps you can even have fame, maybe, if that's what you want. Not necessarily, and depends on your circumstance, but I do a lot of that. So when people ask about relocation or going abroad, not necessarily where in the world, but to actually hone it down to some areas and to see what would suit them best, health-wise as well.
That's a good idea. I hadn't thought about that. That's because it's very popular at the moment. We're such a transient society. So many people there's not a month goes by without somebody says to me, Elaine, I'm moving to Portugal. How can you help? You know, connect me with the right people and so on. So now I know that they should also be checking with you to see if it's the right thing for them.
And it also, if you move even 100 miles, you know, you've got a relocation chart. What's the chart of that area and how does it link with you?
Yes.
And, you know, that it's like anything, one really needs to know what one's doing with that. And I'd still say that, for example, let's just say somebody with their Venus energy, which is about love and loving to receive, and you can love yourself and love others. Wouldn't that be nice? But you feel okay about earning money and earning it and receiving it. And you feel okay about your creativity, whether you're talented or not. But let's just say somebody has Venus in their chart where they're a bit wounded there. That can be from upbringing, from other lifetimes, ancestry, schooling, and they feel they put a block on that, or they feel unworthy of it. So they go to a Venus line on the world map and think, oh, now that's going to be nice, but it can be quite uncomfortable because they're not comfortable with that within themselves. So they have to work with that, hopefully. Do you see what I mean? So it's not always about, let's look for a good planet, if you like, where it is. You've got to actually look at where it's placed in your own chart, how healthy it is, and perhaps even before moving there, start working on yourself with it a little.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously take guidance from you, or you know, somebody like you who knows how to interpret it, because it's similar with my behavioral profiling work that I do. We have tendency to put people into you know, buckets and so you're this sort of person, or you're that sort of person, or you're introvert or you're extrovert or whatever. We've got all of those characteristics, but the special blend that we all have and our circumstances will mean a different interpretation, which is how I help people with that side of things. And obviously that leads into the health. So what's the well, time's ticking on now. We've got I need to get this up so that we help people for the thing this evening. Our retreat is the 11th to the 14th of June. People who come need to realise that it's a plant-based experience. So there's no fish, there's no meat. It's all plant-based food. So vegan we're on a vegan glamping site. So if you haven't dipped your toe into the water with vegan food before, I can tell you it's pretty delicious. And the host family cook the most amazing dishes that we'll be enjoying. I didn't realize actually, but until I knew this lady, I'm actually pretty much vegan. I'm not, but I'm probably 85%. So I do have, you know, the odd bits and pieces which don't fit their criteria, but it's 3 days, 4 nights, sorry, 3 nights, 4 days for anybody who's interested. And we're looking at personal development, health, astrology, how they all link together. And Ysanne and I will be co-leading the event. And we do have day tickets. You can come for a day if you're locally in Portugal, or you can come for an evening with Ysanne talking about whatever crops up, because no doubt, because it's a fluid type of event, whatever crops up, maybe we'll be concentrating on the Thursday evening. And I know that already we have got some people that have expressed an interest. So thank you for listening, everybody. Hope you have a super experience tonight and your intentions are set very, very clearly on what you want to happen in the future. And
may I just add something very quickly, that I'll also be covering colour, because I'm a colour healer therapist.
Oh, right. Yes, of course. I've forgotten about that.
I'm going to make it really simple and experiential, so you will live your birth chart. And don't worry, it's not like being exposed to anything. I'm very gentle, but it's a real way of understanding your inner stories, even some myths, and looking at the cycles up ahead in the world and for us now. And because this eclipse will run its influence for at least 6 months, to look at our wounds and to know that behind the wound, the major one, we actually have a gift which we can help other people with, and we'll be exploring that, whether
brilliant
or not.
Brilliant. So we just need basic information when people register. And obviously the birth chart reading is only for people who are attending the full experience, but you'll be able to help people who maybe are coming for the day. They can connect with you afterwards and to experience their chart reading, which I had recently. It was very, very interesting.
Oh yes, of course we did.
Very interesting. Marvelous. Thank you so much, Ysanne. And we might have another chat between now and then. We just need to get people expressing interest. So the details will be in the notes below. So thank you, Ysanne, and look forward to meeting you in person.
Oh, absolutely. Can't wait. Thank you all.